Hi, I'm Lisa Andrea, Transformation Life Coach. Welcome to the Ladies Who Leap podcast, where women share their inspiring stories of leaping out of their comfort zone with confidence and power and into a life of purpose and fulfillment. Let's listen to their life-changing stories so that we can all learn how to gain the courage to take a leap of faith into a life that we love, so that we can all be Ladies Who Leap. Let's get started. Hi, welcome to Ladies Who Leap podcast. I am going to be interviewing Lisetta Coffin. So here's her story. In 2018, right before Thanksgiving, Lisetta was given the shocking news that her 25-year sales career was over. In a matter of seconds, she was told she was being laid off and shuffled over to HR. Her transformation journey began that day, and she learned the hard way that leaps are sometimes cliff dives. Let's learn from Lisetta's courageous journey, where she learned that some cliff dives can actually be leaps into a pool of warm, inviting water carrying life-changing opportunities. It's all about your mindset and courage to take that leap that dictates how successful your transformation becomes. Welcome, Lisetta.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. And I'm so pleased to have this opportunity to be with you and to share the story for other ladies who are looking to leap. So yes, my story, began in 2018, 25-year sales career. And all of a sudden, and I had to be honest, I had seen this happen to other people, but I had never, ever thought that it would ever happen to me. And it's very sudden news right before the holidays. And I thought, actually, because I was given, this is your 2-week notice, I thought that I could still actively work for 2 weeks. And I thought, I've got all this business to close, I've got contacts to make. And my husband said to me, I don't think so. You're done today. And I was like, but I've got all this work to do. I've got to get it done. I've only got 2 weeks. So I did verify with HR because I was so shocked and stunned that I didn't take in that little detail that as of that moment, I was really done. So once I heard that, I said, okay, first thing I'm going to do, send out a thank you note to all of my clients for being my clients and letting them know that someone else would be taking over. I didn't know who, but I was sure that they would be very well taken care of. I wanted to exit with grace and with gratitude. And so that was the first thing, really, that I did. And then I started to share the news with family, with friends, and really everyone. It was like a reverberating state of shock that just kept waving because people were like, I can't believe this. How is this possible? And I basically said, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity to enjoy cooking for Thanksgiving, which had always been a really big rush because we always had family coming to visit. So I started out with that and said, okay, focus on the holiday, focus on what matters. I started to get all of these emails from clients, totally unsolicited, writing recommendations. And that was a very nice boost to my ego. And once the dust settled and the holidays settled down, what am I going to do now? Because I've never had all of this free time. I never felt like I could really even take a week vacation, even though I had 5 weeks of vacation. So this was a whole new concept. I'd always been interested in yoga. And I thought, maybe now's my opportunity to dive a little bit deeper. I didn't really know where to start, but I started researching. And one of my favorite yoga teachers was trained at Kripalu, which is in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. And I had never thought I could ever do a training there because they were a month at a time. And I thought, well, I can't take a month off. And I really didn't want to take a month and be away from home. But I checked it out. And lo and behold, they had just started a new program, which was basically a 9-month program, but you met on the weekends.
Hmm.
And I thought, you know what, this is perfect because I can do this. I can drive over there. It's a 2-hour drive for me. I'm in central New York. Drive over there, do the training. And I said to my husband, who, by the way, said to me, go for it. You know, I'm 100% on board. I think this is an excellent idea. And I said, that's fine, but don't think that this means I'm going to become a yoga teacher because I really don't know what I want to do. I just have an opportunity to take a deep dive here, and that's what I'm going to do.
So
So,
I'm gonna interrupt just for a second because
yeah.
it seems like because what you've experienced is something that a lot of people experience, being laid off.
Hmm.
And I always say it's a congratulatory time because as you and I know, and for the listeners, Lizetta and I have known each other since high school in Connecticut.
That's right.
So we've lived through these crises, even across the miles on the phone and supported each other through these types of challenges in our lives. But it appeared that once you had this happen and you had great support, and we'll talk about who was very supportive to you, that opportunities started coming up at the right time. Just like you said, you had always wanted to do the yoga class, but you didn't want to take a whole month away. Then they came up with this other new opportunity. And I think there's even an even better opportunity that came up. So these were things once you put out into the universe, this is something I've always wanted to do. I have the opportunity to get off of that, hamster wheel
That's
and
what it
just,
was. Yep.
yep, and just enjoy your life. You actually had some monetary time, some money to be able to give you some time to be able to think and do, what your next act was going to be in life. So that was very opportunistic. That was very, good to have as an opportunity. So
Yep.
let's talk about what opportunities came to you. Um, they gave you the courage and the idea that this was the right direction to go in.
Well, I had been practicing yoga for probably 15 years before, close to 20 years actually, before I went to yoga school. So I had dabbled in it as much as I could with the aggressive work schedule that I had. Once I had all of this free time, and I said, you know what, it's time for me to focus in on myself because I've always been doing things for other people. My career was number one. And you see this happen. You put a lot into your career, and careers are great, and they give you money and they give you a lifestyle, they give you all kinds of things. But as you're traveling through life, for me, I got to the point where I said, you know what? I kind of wish that I had been, I don't know, strong enough to admit to myself 2 years prior that I wasn't really happy in my career anymore. So this was a congratulations, pushing me off, sending me off into a dive because I would never have quit. Quitting was something that was ingrained. You don't do that. You do not quit. You work hard, you get your rewards. And so even though I wasn't, thrilled, hey, I was invested. I had a lot of time invested. And so I kept plodding along. But if I were to really do a look back and say, you know what? I wasted 2 years. I wasted 2 years of my life. And if I had been honest with myself and strong enough to make a leap, I would have. The leap was forced on me. So, but it was best thing was really the best thing that ever happened to me because, like I said, I wouldn't have done it on my own.
So it gave you the courage to be able to
It did.
take that leap.
Yes.
And yet it still took some courage to do it, right? You didn't know exactly what was entailed with being a yoga practitioner. You didn't know if you could do it. I always like to
I
ask what gave you the courage even to actually start taking the classes.
well, I as I said, the big thing really was the change in their schedule. And
Right.
with the change in their schedule offering a weekend program, I felt like, okay, I can do this. I can go on the weekends. I can learn. I was when I didn't know anybody there. I mean, I did this on my own, right? So I'm going. I'd never been there before, so I went, and immediately I felt very welcomed. I felt at ease. There were, probably 35 other people in the class, mainly female, some males. And it was a grueling, exhausting training. You forged a wonderful bonds, learned about so much. I had no idea. I just had no idea how deep this was. Yoga is a 4,000-year-old practice. And think about that, 4,000 years. And because of my one yoga instructor who I really liked, um, she was trained at Kripalu. That's how I picked Kripalu. I could have picked any number of different things, but Kripalu was the right fit for me. It's compassionate yoga. Um, and I also, one of the big things I learned there was inclusivity, make yoga inclusive. And I thought, well, everybody can teach yoga, take yoga, go to a yoga class. But you know what? That's not really true. Some people are not, some people have limits that they put on themselves. I'm not flexible enough. I'm not strong enough. I don't like to work out. Some people have limits within their bodies that they can't do certain things, whether it's an injury or this is something that's happened from birth. So, how do we make this inclusive? And that's one of the big things at Kripalu, make this accessible and inclusive to everyone. You could be a homeless person on the street. You could have an addiction problem. You could be a 25-year-old. And I think a lot of times what you see with yoga is the person who looks perfect in the perfect pose, who's probably female, who probably has um, a great figure, um, and they're probably in their 20s or 30s. And I wanted to dive deep into yoga because I saw this as something that you can do throughout your entire life. So, yoga can move with you. So, when you're younger, you can have a more aggressive practice. As you begin to age, you maybe your practice becomes more gentle. Maybe you build in more meditation. So, what I found at Kripalu were compassionate people wanting to make yoga accessible to the masses. Didn't matter what walk of life you were in, what your income level was, all of those things that we put on ourselves didn't matter there. Yoga was for
Mm.
you, yoga was for everyone. And the message was, how can you, think about how you can take this out into the world. So that compassion, that inclusivity, I found that to be refreshing and very appealing to me. How I was going to bring that forward, I really, really didn't know at that point, but I was learning and I was enjoying learning.
So that
And I
was
know,
it sounds like the message of compassion and inclusivity was really staying true to yourself. That's something that you felt really was your values and you felt strongly about. I'm going to take a little interruption here to talk about the chair that you're sitting in, because it's about being true to yourself, as you said earlier.
Yes.
And those
So
of you that are seeing this on YouTube, on video, will be able to see this lovely chair. But please explain what chair you're sitting in, because this is an interesting
okay.
story.
Yes. So I'm going to stand up and I'm going to pick up the chair so you can kind of really get a sense of this chair. So here we go. So this is, and I don't know if you can see, but it's really an old chair. It is an old chair. It's an antique chair. And my in-laws were great purveyors of history and uh, early decorative American arts, antique dealers. They did a lot of things. This is family lore, although my husband insists that this is absolutely true. Benedict Arnold sat in this chair, and his family has always referred to this chair as the Benedict Arnold chair. So we've acquired this, and we keep it around, and we look at the chair, and we say, stay true to yourself. Don't sell yourself out. Know who you are. And this chair is the reminder. So, that was the message from Benedict Arnold. And so it's just an item that we have. And every once in a while, you look at it and you say, okay, I got to remember this.
This is what gives
And
you your come back to Lisetta, come back
yes,
to what it is that you want to do, what's true to you. And then
that's
that
right.
translated to picking Kripalu, because that's exactly what spoke to you about it.
That's
Yeah.
what spoke to me. And along the way, there were all of these things that just fortuitously came into place. So when I got done with my Kripalu training, my yoga teacher, who the Kripalu trained yoga teacher, said, "Great, you can substitute for me sometimes. I need a sub." And I thought, oh boy, I don't know if I can hold a candle to her. Was a little nervous about that. And so I graduated in August of 2019. I did a little bit of subbing for her. And then guess what? We had a global pandemic.
There you go. Hello.
And I had been, at that point, I thought, well, maybe I'll teach online. But there were, all these yoga studios were closing. Everything was shutting down. And a lot of yoga teachers were pivoting to online. And these were people that, this was their livelihood. This is how they made their money. And I thought to myself, first of all, I'm not going to throw myself in that fray. Those people are established, they know what they're doing, and this is their livelihood. I'm just going to sit back now. And I'm not sure where this idea of yoga teacher is going. Is it going away now? What is it doing? I don't know. And then another pivot, another shift happened, another fortuitous shift. Kripalu, who had never done any online teaching, everything was always in person. Well, their facility shut down too. And of course, that's a source of income for them. And so they decided to offer yoga teacher training online. So I said, you know what? It was not in my budget to do more training, but I can afford to do the training with it being online because I don't have to travel there. And then you have room and board, it's just like going to college. The tuition is not as expensive as the room and the board. So we had a space in our house. A neighbor who was a contractor wasn't really working because of the pandemic.
Right.
And we said, can you help convert us into a yoga studio, this extra room that we have? So, and I said to my husband, I'm going to call this a yoga studio right now. Maybe it's not really always going to be a yoga studio, but that's what I'm going to call it right now. And so I then embarked on another additional 300 hours of training where I dug even deeper into some areas like Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga. It's the medical part of yoga, also in the 4,000 year old range. I did adaptive yoga.
Mm.
So, adaptive yoga, we covered everything from breast cancer patients, um, developmentally disabled folks, folks with large bodies, folks with pregnant bodies, folks with knee surgery, shoulder surgery, hip surgery. And so I took that time during the pandemic to continue to build up my education. So for me, it was again very fortuitous because it wouldn't have been possible any other way.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I always say when you put out to the universe something that you want to complete, something that you love, something that you want to do, and you think very positively about it, like, I'm already there. You think in the present tense, I am a yoga teacher and I want to be able to help others. Then guess what happens? Opportunities come in and they give you that ability to be able to do it.
Mhm.
You get opportunities and doors open for you that you never thought was possible and that you didn't even think were doors that you needed to have opened. And, I mean, it was a terrible pandemic and what was happening, but it gave you that open door to be able to take that online class and just continue. And I have to say I'm a benefit because I am one of your yoga students. And I went through my bout with actually, I went through a bout of breast cancer last year, and you were very, very helpful. Once I started being able to come out of it, you even had me sitting in a chair at some point. So it was very comforting to know that I can continue what I was
Right.
doing and ease into it through my own journey. So I really appreciate that. That was
Well,
fantastic.
you know what? It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure, and I was happy to see that we were able to do that. And it keeps you in the zone. It keeps you in the mode of doing. And there's an example of as you go through stages in life, this is a practice that can adapt and go along with you. So you can't be a marathon runner, or let's say most people can't be a marathon runner when they're age 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 and 60 and 70, because as we know, the body starts to break down whether we want it to or like it or not. It does happen. And I see yoga as something that encompasses the mind and the body, and it can expand and contract and morph along with you in whatever your path is in life. And honestly, if anyone had said to me, you should quit your job because all these opportunities are going to be falling in front of you, I would have said, yeah, right. That's just never going to happen. I mean, it's just not possible. And so as I've been on this journey all along the way, I'm saying, look at this. This is amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if people, I say if women, mostly women, but all people had the opportunity to have the courage to take that leap earlier in their life, it
Yes.
would have started that fantastic journey earlier. I know it's difficult. Sometimes you need that, cliff dive that to make it happen. But understanding that once you are committed and you found your calling, you found your purpose, you know that this is what you want to do, again, opportunities start coming to you. You get put in front of people that can really help you on that journey. The money and the finances are there for you. It all starts to go into place. Nothing is coincidental, right? This is all part of
Right.
the plan for your life. As you were going through this, though, I know there's probably some challenges that you hit on the way. Were there certain people that were very supportive? Do you have a good group of support from folks, from friends, family?
Well, I'm lucky that I do. And I'm very grateful for that. Another friend from high school. also, and this person works with developmentally disabled folks. As soon as she heard that I was doing accessible yoga training, she said, "When you're done with your training, I'm going to recommend some people to you."
Mm.
And I said, "Okay." And I never went into this saying, I'm going to be specializing in a certain area of yoga. As a matter of fact, a yoga teacher at one point in the beginning, when I had done my first Kripalu training, when I graduated, she said, "Well, what's your passion? What's your
Mm.
passion with yoga?" And I said, "I like it all. I like it all." And so that can be a good answer or it can be a bad answer, right? And what I have found as time has gone on is, and my wheelhouse is gentle yoga. That's where it's calming. I time and time again, as I'm going through a practice, people say your voice is very calming.
Mhm.
I feel so calm. I get that all the time. And so whether I'm working with someone who's recovering from an illness, someone who is shy about going to a yoga class because there are all these other people around and they're not comfortable, they can come here to my studio. I can do one-on-one trainings here, which I do, and I do my online yoga for people across the miles, and so I have found that gentle yoga and adapting yoga to an individual's needs, that's what my wheelhouse is. And as I've done more and more trainings, a big cheerleader of mine is my husband. Never once has he said to me, "Oh, I don't want you to do that because you'll be away," or "You're taking too much time," or "That costs too much money." He has said to me, "Go for it. I'm 100% behind you. Go for it." I've had family and friends who say, "Oh my God, the work you're doing is amazing." I don't really think I'm doing anything amazing. I'm doing something that interests me and I like learning and I like to share with other people. But having a supportive environment around you is very important. And one of the things that I've learned, because I'm also a gardener, and I have this saying, and people who know me know this, I'll say, "Stop watering rocks." Well, sometimes I get a look. It's like, okay, what happens when you water a rock? It can be the most beautiful rock. You keep watering the rock. Does the rock change? No, nothing happens to the rock. So I sometimes I say to people, you're watering a rock, and it could be a person, it could be a habit, it could be um, a job, it could be a career, it could be any number of things. But in life, all we really have is time,
Yes.
and spend your time wisely. And sometimes things are complicated. I've said to a friend at one point, "How come so and so is with so and so? That doesn't seem like they're happy together." Well, because they don't want to be divorced. They don't want to be divorced. And I'm thinking, okay, and everyone has to do what is best for them. But for me, what I found is, you know what? I cannot put energy because I don't have enough bandwidth to put into things that are not going anywhere. And so if someone else wants to do that, that's up to them. But I've stopped watering rocks and I try very hard not to water rocks. And I find sometimes, especially when I talk to women, women have a hard time doing that. Women
Yes.
want to keep nurturing. And it comes back to the old story of being in the airplane and the pilot comes on and says, "We're going to crash," and the oxygen masks are coming down. And you're sitting there and you've got your 2-year-old child, and there's only one mask that comes down. And what do? Do you put the mask on you, or do you put the mask on the child? And most of the time, the person will say, of course, I'm going to put the mask on my child. Yes, but if you die, you can't help your child. So
Right.
you need to put the mask on you. And this is, I think, also more a female thing. A lot of times we're so busy taking care of everybody else around us that we're not refilling our own well. We are not bringing ourselves back up to the point where we have enough to really offer. And that is something that I encourage people to do, to make sure, because it's not being selfish, right? It's not being selfish. Whatever it is that gives you a release, maybe it's a massage, maybe you want to do a girlfriend's weekend, or whatever it is, take a yoga class, learn meditation, pick something new that you want to do, but do something so that you are refilling your well and rejuvenating yourself, because then you have something to give. If you're depleted, you don't have anything to give.
Yeah, I remember Oprah said that many years ago on her show, that especially even with caretakers, people that are taking care of others, that if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be there to be able to take care of the other person. And I always took that as just a really great piece of advice, but you elaborated on it even more right here. And I love that saying about your stop watering rocks. I was going to ask if there was any mindset beliefs or affirmations or quotes that you like. That's it. I mean, I
That's
think
it.
all of us are going to remember, stop watering the rocks and move on
Yes,
and do what is good for you. Find your purpose, understand what your higher purpose is, what you were called to do, and what makes you fulfilled and happy, and do it.
right.
So I wanted to see if you, because right now, talk a little bit about what you do and how people can reach you. I take her online yoga classes every Wednesday morning from California. You're in New York. I love
Right.
it. I live for those mornings. Hopefully I can do it even more. So tell us how to reach you and how people can sign up for those online classes.
Yes. So, I would encourage, I'm on Facebook. So my yoga studio is called Lakeside Yoga. So you can find me on Lakeside Yoga, or my personal Facebook page, which is Lisetta, Lisetta, and my last name is actually Coffin, Coffin. So no one ever wants to believe that it's Coffin, but it is. And I always say, geez, I really love my husband in order to take that as my last name. Um, but via Facebook, I will post, my classes, and from there, you can find the link to my Linktree page. I do private sessions, and that's you and me one on one. We work on whatever it is that you want to work on. We establish. Um, we have an initial 60-minute meeting where we just kind of get to know each other and understand. I get to understand what your concerns are and what your interests are and what you'd like to accomplish. And then I custom design a practice for you.
I-
Currently, I'm doing the classes Wednesday morning online at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I may add more classes. There's always opportunities for that. Um, and then I have my private clients that I see locally. So locally, I've got some people that I go to them, and then I have other people who come here, and we're in the studio here. So whether it's a private session, it can be online or in studio, or a yoga practice, same thing, online or in the studio here or in a client's home locally.
So I just want to say also, and I don't know how many of the listeners take or practice yoga on a regular basis, but in the case with you, Lisetta, I have found that it's not just a physical aspect of it. It's very much a mind-driven and energy type of aspect, because you do start and finish with fantastic quotes or stories things that put you in this very spiritual mindset of doing what's right for you, being part of the earth, being part of all things, being in the world and being compassionate. I had a client that really wants to explore the spiritual side, and I referred her to you because I believe that even just starting the type of spiritual journey to open yourself up is yoga is a great way to start that, especially with someone like yourself that really talks to being compassionate and good to all beings on this earth. It's just a great message.
Well, and the the interesting thing about that too is one of the things that happens with the Kripalu style of yoga. We call it meditation in motion, and we really bring the breath into the practice. So, what happens when you're doing that is you're bringing yourself more inward. So, the things that are outside, oh, I've got this appointment, or I've got to pick up my child over here, or I've got to run here, there, and everywhere. When you're trying to focus on matching the breathing with the movement, a lot of that outside stuff there's no space for that to infiltrate. So we do a combination of breath work, which is pranayama. We do warm-ups, which basically is getting our body ready to move. So everything is done in a very safe way for people. And that whole practice is also about you as an individual coming into fine tuning with your own body and noticing things with your own body. So I can tell you to do something, but I can't feel how it feels in your body. And in a Kripalu class, you have complete license to stretch it a little further or pull it a little bit back or do something completely different altogether. And that's important too, because it builds an awareness of your body. So, in every single day, our bodies are not the same, things are different. And we always balance the left side and the right side because we think our sides are the same, but they really are not. And so, for folks who are looking to really draw inward, and yes, yoga is a spiritual practice, but it's not a religion. Everybody has their own religion, and you keep practicing your own religion. This is really just isolating yourself and drawing inward so that you can focus on yourself again to refill that well, to replenish that well. And I would tell you that every morning before I get out of bed, I say a little prayer. Every night before I go to bed, I say a little prayer, and I start by being thankful for my parents, my ancestors. Thank you for the lifestyle that they showed me, hard work, be a good person. I'm thankful for my husband. I'm thankful for where I live. I look outside. Sometimes my husband will say to me, "What are you doing?" I'm just looking outside. I'm in stillness. I'm just looking outside. I might see a bird, or I might see a flower, or a butterfly, or who knows what, but I'm observing nature. And it's also a really good practice to get out into nature. And it doesn't matter where you live, you can be in an urban area or out in the country. Go outside. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. If it's raining, put on a raincoat. If it's really cold, bundle up. Go outside. Take the simple things that the universe is giving to you. All you have to do is put yourself in a position to receive it. And all of that is beneficial to you as a human being. And without realizing it, you're filling up your well.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, being really my first guest as the rebooted Ladies Who Leap podcast. Your words have been wise and comforting and inspirational. And
Thank
I
you.
think that everyone that's listening kind of gets an idea of how you fill your well, how you keep your positive mindset, how you had the courage to be able to go towards something and do something that was very outside of your box from your whole life of what you did professionally, and really flourish and have a different sense of fulfillment, a real different sense of fulfillment. So Lisetta is at Lakeside Yoga on Facebook. And from there, you'll get the link to be able to decide how you want it. If you're in the New York area, and you can even probably talk to her. If there's in some way, if you want to speak to Lisetta, send me a quick message too. I can hook you up with her and talk to her.
Absolutely.
Yep, because if you just want to learn more about where you're located and whether they're close to you, if they're in the upper state, it's like upper state New York
We're
area,
central New York,
central
technically.
New York. Okay. Or online, and let's just all enjoy nature and the world and ourselves and
And
trust
positive
ourselves.
people, positive people.
Yes, and surround
Surround yourself.
ourselves. Yes, that's so important. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you to everybody for listening. And remember, you can get the courage to leap into a new life that's meant for you and one that you love. It's there for everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening or watching. Please subscribe to the Ladies Who Leap podcast to be notified of new episodes. And I would love to hear from you. Let me know what works, what doesn't, and if you have a story to tell, please reach out. Come join the Leap community at the Ladies Who Leap Club Facebook group. Remember, leaping out of your comfort zone is where the magic happens.